No Further Information, a podcast about cops and riding lawnmowers. This episode focuses on cops. You're going to hear from a good friend and exceptionally dedicated public servant. He's a shining example of what the job truly means. He's a Latino immigrant from Mexico, but don't worry, only the first 30 minutes of the podcast are in Spanish. Let's hear from Officer Bob, or Roberto, the city detective.
Hey, this is Officer Roberto. I'm a detective currently at one of the large agencies here in Texas.
Smaller to mid-sized city, where the city that I work for, when we work side by side, smaller. So the cop kind of the patrol officer has to do stuff. I love that sort of in between. Yeah, my schedule fucking blew too, don't get me wrong. But like I was able to dig. So I was able to do investigations. Right. I was able to like go get that warrant and go knock on. I was able to execute my own warrants.
Right.
And that's tough in big cities.
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible. I mean, you either do one thing or you do the other. I mean, it's patrol's job, do the report, investigative, make the warrant out, and then you have whatever fugitive or whatever you want to call it, depending on your city, they pick up the guy. And it's sometimes, man, I like every step of the way, but I can't really do that. You know?
And there's a little bit, I'll say there's a little bit of free, it's all a mixed bag, right? So there's a little bit of freedom to like, just take the call, do the best you can from up until your point, and then just release. I like that, but there's a little bit of freedom to that. The NYPD has an art theft division. That's all they. That's all they do is art theft. Like, I want that fucking job. Right? I want that. What's our mutual friend whom worked with you side by side, not side by side at your agency. Yes. Our mutual friend, it was he'd share stories with me. We all know the division that we worked in was really tough, and he told me about some really difficult stories. Do any of these stories stick with you? Do you have a story that stuck with you and you think about to this day?
See, I have a few.
Yeah.
And actually, we're partners for me and our mutual
friend. Right. Yeah.
He probably told you this one, so I'll tell it. It was a disturbance call, and it was basically just very, very vague in the comment section. It was just, caller called for police. If I remember correctly, there was some sort of argument and then hung up. It had been holding for a little while, so it wasn't like it was fresh or anything. But when we arrive at this house, right, there's a pickup truck in the driveway, and it's on. At the time, we didn't know at the time, but essentially the alleged suspect is inside the truck with his kid. He must have been, 4 or 5 years old, young kid. And then the girlfriend, essentially, right, outside of the truck. The girlfriend is outside of the truck, and they're arguing. And as we're pulling up, we're walking towards the truck, and she's frantic. She's like, hey, he's trying to leave. He knows what he did. So we're thinking, okay, we may have an offense here and there. I approach the passenger side of the truck. Bob approaches the driver's side, and I could see that Bob is having some trouble with the guy. The guy's not getting out of the truck. So I go around, and at this point, Bob is having hands on him, right? So we get close to him. We're trying to get him out of the truck. This dude blatantly goes and reaches over to the under the seat of the truck, very, very blatantly. Like he's definitely gonna go reach for a weapon or some sort. Right. Kids in the back, mom or
whatever she is.
She's crying. She's frantic. It's just,
always super helpful. By
right.
the way. Yeah.
Yes. So, and as he does that, Bob is pretty much hands on. He doesn't have a chance to do anything but try to grab him. So I pull my gun out and I put it to this guy's temple, right? And because I'm just waiting for him to pull something out and blow his brains out in front of his kid, right? Well, he comes back empty-handed for whatever reason, and something just for that second, I was like, what are you doing? Like, do you want to get shot? I said, are you trying to get shot? Bob says something similar, and the guy goes, yes, goes to reach over again. I guess he must have not been able to grab whatever he was grabbing. Simultaneously, I had holstered my weapon because he had come up empty-handed, right? Holstered my weapon, and I got my taser. Well, when he reached again, I just tased him. I pulled Bob back with me. We kind of like retreated. Tasing was effective, and we ended up being able to separate. Obviously, girl's frantic. It's night, so we can't really see inside the truck. It's tinted windows, and at that point, I remember not knowing what to do. I would think, okay, I can go in and engage and try to get him out again, but potentially shoot him if he has a gun, or because the wife was so frantic, she could see what's going on inside. We couldn't. We're on the other side of the truck now,
Right.
and it almost sounded like he was gonna do some kind of suicide, kill the kid with him, take the kid. So I was like, okay, do I go in there and blow this guy's brains out, right, and in front of his kid, and then traumatize him forever,
Right.
or do I kind of just hang on, hope he doesn't kill the kid? So that was it was rough. I did not know. I was almost frozen. I did not know what to do, but ultimately, everything, we got cover out there. We held him at gunpoint for a while. He ended up giving up. Nothing happened, thank God. He ended up having a knife in there, some kind of butcher knife, not a gun or nothing. But I remember telling him at the jail, like, dude, like I almost killed you in front of your son. And he's like, I know, man. He's crying, and it's like, I know, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I just didn't want to live, stuff like that. And man, I remember like just getting so mad at him for almost having me do that, and that was kind of rough. And I got stories for days, but we have limited time. But
It's when you said you got mad at him, I get that. It's you fucking made me do this.
Yeah.
You almost made me fucking kill you in front of your son.
Yeah. And
that story sticks with you. I would say in the grossness stress meter, that story was probably middle of the road, but it sticks with you.
Right. Yeah.
And we just don't know, like, it could happen that fast. It can
absolutely.
That guy could have been fucking dead, brains all over the fucking passenger side window, his kids screaming and crying.
Yeah.
I love one of the things that I love to do, because I fancied myself a fake investigator, but I wasn't. I was never a detective. But
detective is a strong word. We don't really do much investigating, but
well, back home we used to say defectives.
yeah, it sounds more. Yeah.
But I do love investigations. I love where you find that piece, you connect it to that dot, you found that one guy through Facebook, you got his number through TLO or Accurant. I love it. Do you have a good buttoned up investigation story where you got that? Oh, I noticed that, and because I love those stories.
I do. So I
you have too many.
I wouldn't say too many, but when I first started, I haven't been a detective long. Been about a year. When I first started, I had a case where this dude was allegedly sleeping with women and giving them HIV, right? Purposely. Very hard to prove, right? I mean, you have to prove that he knows. You have to prove that he's not taking his medication, because that's what would make him spread the disease. And so at first it was kind of like, well, we don't really know if we're going to have a case. I mean, you engage in that, in a sexual encounter per se. And you kind of like, that's
a dice toss.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. But she said some stuff. Essentially, what she said, well, I dated this guy for a few months. We broke up because I found out he was cheating, essentially. And come a few months later, I happened to see a post on Facebook on this page. There's this particular page, and where they post guys that are problematic and stuff. And they posted his picture, and I was like, that's kind of odd. So, hey, be careful with this guy. He's
right.
X, Y,
I
and Z.
dated him.
Yeah.
Hey, ladies, be careful.
So
I'm on that site, by the way.
Me too. So these victims, or my victim goes and asks, hey, like, what's up with this dude? And she's like, hey, look, he gave me HIV, he's known, and she starts giving her all this information. He's not because of this, and that, or whatever. So she goes, well, gets checked, and sure enough, she's
holy
she's awesome.
shit.
And good girl. I mean, normal citizen. She's not like a.
She didn't. Not that anyone deserves it,
right?
But she's not like engaging. She's not promiscuous. She's not
exactly.
Yeah, we get.
So this turns out that other girl that she talked to on Facebook has also made a report. So then I talked to her, and all of a sudden, we got a little bit more. All right. So okay, and as I'm talking to these girls, I get background stories. Well, how do you know he's known for this amount of time? How do you, like, where's all this information coming from? Because you're just saying that, right? Well, she tells me, well, I spoke to his baby mama, and his baby mama said, so I end up finding the baby mama, and I tracked, I don't want to give too much because it's still ongoing,
right.
But essentially, I spoke to so many people.
Right.
And once I spoke to baby mama, which was a risk, because I did not want him to know at all what was going on. I wanted to just surprise him, right? So anyways, I talked to the DA. I'm like, this is what's going on. I got multiple girls at this point. Are you taking this case? And they're like, yeah, if it's multiple girls, just prove he knows he has it, and that he's not taking his medication. So anyways, talk to baby mama. After I get to a halt on my investigation, like, I need to know just more. Where did he go through the clinic? How do we know? So baby mama was a missing link. I talked to her, super helpful. She basically gave context to everything, and it was kind of cool going pretty much from 2019 of this guy's life up to 2023, essentially, piecing everything together, and it was interesting, and I eventually get him arrested. Get a search warrant for his house, his phone, everything. And as I'm talking to the guy, he's blindsided because I picked him up on an unrelated warrant. Then all of a sudden he's sitting in the detective desk, and I'm asking him, and I knew so much about this guy that as he's talking to me, he's giving me all this bullshit. Bullshit. Oh, I just found out. But I had all his medical records.
Mm-hmm.
So after I lock him in, I'm like, well, look, let me show you something. And then, is this your name? Yeah. This, is this right here? It says that in 2019, X, Y, and Z. So, whoa. And I just started attacking him with everything I knew. And I was like, dude, look, I know everything about you. I know where you work. I know where you were this weekend because he had gone out of town or something. I know everything. So I just, I ended up getting him for he even gave HIV to girls in different cities in Texas. And then they're doing their own thing. So he ended up knowing he had it. He was not taking his medication. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like I said, I don't want to give too much detail. I know this is very vague, but at the end of the day, I mean, I locked him in, I had the medical records. I had, his admission to everything. And he got a total of 5 charges. 4, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Would have been more, but a lot of girls didn't want to go through. Because when I went through his phone, dude, right. I mean, I found so many more girls that he's been into. I mean, ridiculous amount of numbers.
And you got to sit there and contact them all. And
it was, but. Whew.
Is the charge ag assault?
Yeah. It ended up being 3 counts of ag assault. And then the city also charged him with a count of a sex assault. I'm not sure where they got that from. Yeah. Because it was consensual. But I don't know 100% the facts over there. So. Right.
Yeah. I love when a good investigation comes together.
Yeah. Oh, almost. It's probably like 10-month investigation. Really.
Hours of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you start fixating, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what broke my heart, though, is, yeah, you did your job and you did what you were supposed to, and like justice is served. I'm holding up air quotes. Did we help the victim?
Right.
Did they still have HIV? Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to shit on your hard work, by the way.
Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right.
I've felt this way. I'm like, yeah, but oh fuck, and sexual assault suspect I put in jail, and it's still this awful thing happened. So, how much do we care about the other side of the fence, because cops will go, well, the charge got dropped, right? I mean, they pleaded it down, so that's why I don't do XYZ anymore. I'm using DWIs, you know. It got pleaded down to obstruction or anything. I mean, how much do we care? Did we do our job? And if we focus more on doing just our jobs and not worried about the other bullshit, how much peace would that bring us? Because it's stressful.
Oh, absolutely. And going back, you can look at things from that perspective you just mentioned. Oh, they're gonna drop it anyway, so they, they're not gonna. What's the point of this? But at the end of the day, if you have a good case in front of you, and the victim's like, please help me, and all you can do is do the best that you can. If the outside forces, maybe it was the district attorney, maybe it was the jury, whoever, if they decide to do, maybe patrol did a so-so job, but you gotta do what's best, your best, so that you can say, hey, just for yourself, like, hey, man, I did everything I could. Right?
You satisfied your burden.
Yeah. And like you said, I'm not able to cure my victim of HIV or anything, right? And it was very devastating for her. And it was legitimate rough for me to sometimes, multiple victims, right? To talk to them because, man, I wish I could help you more. Like, all I can do is put this guy in jail. I mean, but that's not gonna, And sometimes it was rough. I can imagine it's even more rougher when you get like a homicide thing or something going on. Somebody's, hey, they killed my son. I mean, that, in patrol, I'm sure, we experience it to a certain point, right? But then after that, we move on and that's it. Well, as a detective, he's going to be in there all the way through the trial. And I mean, they get close together with that family. So it could be rough sometimes,
You don't get to pick and choose your calls. You could be sent to any call, and doing right by the call. I mean, who's watching us? So if you do 70% on this call, and that's passing, that's fine. Your supervisors aren't going to bitch, admin's not going to bitch, but why do some cops do 100? Or 90 or 95, and some cops are okay with 70. And I see young guys doing it. Where does that come? Where's this laziness coming from?
I can only speak for my department, right? Because I don't know what it is in other departments, but it's no secret that our applicants are less and less quality now, right?
Everywhere,
right?
Yeah, every department.
And the morale in the department, and I was, affected by it as well. Sometimes it's just, man, here we go again. Whether it's command staff shoving some bullshit down our throats, or whether it's, the citizens, and I think it demoralizes certain troops, and then those demoralized troops teach the younger ones to be disgruntled, and then it kind of just trickles down to a point where now everybody's disgruntled, and you only have a few. Where you used to have a few that were bad, now we have a few that are good. The numbers have flipped almost, and it could be ignorance, it could be laziness, but I think it's more of a accountability, right? If somebody does something shitty, or 70%, like you called it, somebody does 70% and nobody says anything. There's no accountability.
Why am I still here working on 95%? Why am I
doing 100% if that guy over there is doing 40% and he's yeah? Why should I? And then here are the supervisors that are not doing their jobs, and not to say that they're bad, but when supervisors do their job, at least when I see it, then they get in trouble. Like, oh, you can't be telling troops that. So it's like, well, there's no accountability. So the ones that are doing 95, 100%, they're just doing it because they love the job, but why should they? There's really no incentive to do it other than your personal, not necessarily personal gain, but.
So I'll give you the raw USA #1 answer, which is, well, it's your duty to the citizenry.
There you go.
And we have to look at it as a push-pull. My duty to the citizenry versus all these fucking things that you brought up. Pushback and admin and bullshit and morale. And also, by the way, Bob, that same citizenry that you're supposed to swore, they fucking hate you.
Yeah.
They fucking hate you. You're a racist.
and it's ignorance from their part, and sometimes I can't blame him if I try to look at it from an unbiased point of view. Sometimes we do stuff that as cops that I get why somebody else would question that.
Well, the criminal, let's just say, yes, in 15 years and as a former top cop administrator, the criminal justice system is skewed towards one side of the spectrum. It is skewed to the detriment of minorities. The criminal justice system, the punishment system, equal sentencing. Okay, does that mean you're a racist? Does that mean that I only arrested you because you're this color? So, look, I get it. And then we're pushing back now. They're like, yeah, but we're not that way. Mm-hmm. And then another fucking guy gets shot. Right. Like, God, fuck, and so this public I interrupted you, but getting back. So we're pushing the same citizenry that I'm telling you, like, well, Officer Roberto, you got to go out there, and despite all this bullshit, oh, by the way, that same citizenry is like, oh, you're a fucking racist and you're a piece of shit, and I hope you die tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's it's demoralizing, and sometimes it's like, man, I'm trying to do the right thing, right? I'm trying to, but sometimes things are gonna look bad. If I'm gonna arrest somebody and he doesn't want to go to jail, what do you want me to do? Just let him go?
Sir, can you please stop doing what you're doing? Please put the gun down.
And it's like, well, no. Well, what am I supposed to do? You want me to just let him go? I mean, you can only talk to somebody so much before you actually need to just handle business, right?
Well, yeah.
Now, I would say, can we get better at? Absolutely, but it's never going to be a zero incidence of
uses of force,
right?
And it's certainly not going to be what the public wants. It's never going to be what the public wants, because they're all cops, right? Yeah. They know the best. After that fucking submarine went down, all of a sudden everybody was an expert in carbon fiber. Exactly. Everybody's a police expert,
right? And it's not a bad. It's almost like a balance. I've always seen it. We can't have citizens not question our stuff, because then the balance will tip to one side, and we would
absolutely
naturally, humans want to get more power, whether we want to or not. At some point, we get corrupted.
A tale as old as time,
right? So there has to be some pushback to make sure that the balance is set, right? But there's so much pushback right now on the citizens, and then we're not able to do our jobs, right? And we can see it. Crime, especially in the bigger cities, right? They're usually, blue, essentially, more liberal and more progressive.
Yeah.
And crime is just going up. Murders, this and that, and that could be a plethora of things that are affecting it. But I think one thing is just with cops, we're trying to do more, like, more regulation, more this, more that, right. And it's just it's not working, essentially. And
I don't want to fucking be a cop. And if I'm a cop, I don't want to get out of the fucking car and see what that guy's doing. Fuck that.
So you're telling me that if I go and work and do cop stuff, I can get in trouble?
Fuck that.
But if I don't work, right, nothing happens to me? Well, then why should I work? And I think that's a big problem, at least in the city that I work with. Is why should I do something when there's no accountability if I don't do it? And then I'm going to end up in internal affairs, or I'm going to end up in this or that, or if I do work. So the only guys that are out there doing what they can is because they love the job and they have the best intentions. But even those guys sometimes just get
broken down.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. At one point, sometimes it was me, during the George Floyd riots.
Yeah.
It was for almost 6 months, a year. It was like, man, we just didn't want to do anything. It was bad.
Oh, people pulling up to you on your traffic stop saying, "I'm just watching so that you don't abuse this person." Like I'm like
I have you don't understand with my body count. Like the higher ups are going to, if I do anything wrong, they're going to take care of me.
Yeah, you're frozen in place.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah. There's this misconception that we're just out there trying to do shady stuff all the time.
Sure.
Does shady stuff happen? Absolutely. And everywhere, whether it's in the nursing world, whether it's in the teaching world, it happens everywhere. Yeah. But I don't think it's not nearly, at least from my perspective, it's not nearly as shady, or it doesn't happen as often as people make it seem to be. From my perspective, obviously, I only know.
Well, what's the incentive? You Bob, Sally, John, Jane all work at this police department. What's the incentive to go out there and break laws and violates people's... Most of us are here. We're just trying to do our fucking job. We're just trying to do the thing you paid us to do. Yeah. And so, all right, you ready for the hit list? Blood, death, and gore. Internal organs. Literally slipping in blood and getting blood on my uniform. Gotta see that. Gotta have people wanting to kill me or die by my hand. So, okay. Shitty admin and shitty supervision that has no accountability. Low pay. And then a citizenry that hates us. Mm-hmm. Okay, now reverse the roles. You get in these shoes and you do it. When I felt that way, timing was weird in my career, but when I felt that way, something would always come along. Whether it was, 6 days later or something. I'm at my lowest of the low, and I'm like, fuck this fucking job. They can kiss my fucking ass. Oh, yeah. I'm going back to fucking welding school, something would happen that would lift me up.
Right.
And I love those stories. Do you have your citizens or your stories that lifted you up? Can you share some of those with us or one of those with us?
Yeah. I gotta think to see which one's the best ones. Now I'm drawing a blank here.
Oh, they're all the best ones.
I've already spoken about that HIV case because you're very grateful victims. About what I did, but I remember one time it was like a stabbing where older brother so we have this young kid, maybe he was 10, 11 years old, 9 years old, and he had like special needs almost. You can talk to him and stuff, but he was maybe a little bit slower in learning. Mm-hmm. Well, his older brother and his mom had got stabbed by mom's boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Pretty bad. I mean, blood everywhere. They survived, but they were really close to to getting killed. So he saw this whole thing. So we get there and the kid's in a really bad spot. I just I remember like grabbing him, and he's like talking, my mom's boyfriend, he did this and that, and he's just kind of crying and he's like losing his shit, mm-hmm. rightfully so. And I just, I grabbed him and I was just talking him down and I'm, I was almost like tearing up because I felt bad for this kid. He just saw all this stuff and he's like, "Can I give you a hug?" And I was like, "Absolutely, buddy. Come on. Let's bring you to your auntie's house over here." And I actually carried him, because he was so like shook by what he had seen. So he was very grateful. "Thank you very much." I sat him down and that felt really good. That felt really good at that point. There was another one. This one's rough. It was a mental health crisis. This dude, big, 6'6", black dude. I mean, must have been like 280, 300 pounds. He's going through a mental episode. He's got a hammer and he's in front of his mom's bedroom. He's trying to kill her because she's the devil. True mental health episode. Right. Like this guy. I mean, he was going through it, and he needed to pretty much do an exorcism or whatever he thought he needed to do. Wow. So mom calls 911 and I remember getting to the house. They're not opening the door. Come to find out, mom says, like, "I can't leave my room. He'll kill me." And then she remembers she has her garage control on her purse. "I'm gonna open the garage for you guys so we don't have to kick down the door." And we make our way through the house. We get to this hallway. And at the end of the hallway is the door of the bedroom. And then this dude who's... I'm short, right? Mm-hmm. This dude is like 6'6", mm-hmm. 280 pounds. He's standing on the dark hallway with a hammer on his hand, lift up like he's gonna hammer stuff. Just like this, just lifting up over his head, essentially, murmuring something about like, "I have to kill the devil," stuff like that. And he's just standing in front of the door, and he's just kind of tapping on the door itself. Oh my God! So I start talking to him. I was like, "Hey man, look, I don't remember what his name was. But like, hey man, look," and he's not listening to me. I'm there for almost 20 minutes. Finally, I start talking about praying, and I'm not a very religious guy, but I was just trying to like, hang on to something. And as I talked to him about praying and look, let's pray to Jesus, whatever I was coming up with, he finally puts the hammer down, still holding it, then goes ahead and raises his hands like in a praying position and starts praying with me. So, okay, I'm getting somewhere. Needless to say, I'm there for 30, 40 minutes or so, just talking him down. Eventually, we're able to bring him back. And no violence. We were able to put him in cuffs. He got a little tense. He made me really nervous, but we were able to put him in cuffs. Nothing happened to him. Take him to the hospital. Mom was just, she was almost crying. Thank you. I thought you were going to have to, shoot him or something. Yeah. Thank you very much. She was almost like very thankful that we saved her life and her son's, essentially. Unfortunately, 2 days later, he gets out of Parkland Hospital and he gets hit by a car and he gets killed.
Fuck.
Yeah. That made me like, man, like almost like I did all that work. I was, trying to make a difference and he still got killed somehow. But Mom was very, very grateful. It almost made me tear up too of like I helped this person, That was a really stressful situation, but for me, I was there like, please don't come at us, please, because one thing is dealing with a gang member.
That's easy.
Right.
It's easy.
If you need an ass whooping,
I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this guy, he was truly going through a mental health episode, and I wouldn't say he's innocent because he's still responsible for his actions, but almost like he isn't really.
Yeah.
And we want to make this a peaceful ending, and it was, and that was the side of relief, essentially.
That was your ability. That was your talent, and you're communicating with him. Look, as large as your department is, if you're the NYPD, you can't call somebody in to sub in. You can't. You're the one who went through the garage, going through there with your gun out, and then, oh shit, fuck. Okay, hey bud, that's it. You're the man.
That's it.
And that ending breaks my heart, but
yeah,
you did. Let's make it very clear. Let's make no bones about it. You saved this fucking kid's life. And that's definitely one you can put in your book when you get up to the pearly gates and they're going through your life. You can put that one in the book. You can be like, look, I ain't your boss, okay? Can I talk to your supervisor? But you fucking forgot one. Yeah. That'll go in your book, man. You saved that kid's life.
Yeah.
The job is fun.
It is.
I want to hear a dumb story about Bob. Because he's coming in here at some point. I want to hear a dumb story about Bob. We're like, motherfucker, really? Like,
man, I'm trying to remember something, but
I'll take a dumb story about you.
I have one. I have one dumb story. I'll tell you about me because I was fresh out of training, riding on my own. I thought I was big bad motherfucker, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Gotcha.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing. I answered this call. It was a simple call. It was a slow day. First call out of the day. And it was like some trespasser just acting a fool or something. So I go to the call. It turns out he left. He walked that way. They give me a description. All right. Okay, that's pretty significant description. Shirtless guy, waving his stick around. White guy. Skinny, homeless looking. So I go and I happen to see him down the street.
What's homeless looking?
Dirty clothes.
Is that me when I wake up?
I guess a lot of
with the clothes I had on from the last night because I was too tired to change them.
It could be, That doesn't mean you're homeless, but you're homeless looking.
I'm gonna start using that. He was homeless looking.
Yeah. So I happened to spot him. Right. Like I said, he's waving the stick around. He was, we learned later he was high on meth. So, and here I am, and I update, hey, I'm going to update my location to blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go out with the suspect, essentially. So I go to him, and as I walk into this, because he walked into one of the restaurants, I walked in there looking for him. And the manager comes up to me, he's like, hey, there's this guy that just walked in there. You're always causing issues. Can you criminal trespass him? And I'm like, sure, I'm actually here for him. So it turns out he's in the restroom. And he's taking a dump. So I go in there, and I'm stupid, because I'm 22 years old, right? And I just got off training. I'm dumb. I try to have a conversation while he's in the shitter, and I'm like, hey man, look, you know what?
Through the door.
Yeah, like I go into the restroom and I can see his legs.
His
or
legs.
whatever.
Yeah,
And
through
I'm
the
like,
stall.
Hey, yeah. And I'm like, hey
Hey,
man,
bud. Hey.
see, this is officer blah blah blah, and he's like mumbling something I can't understand, and there's echo in the restroom. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'll just wait for you outside. So I go outside, and mind you, at this point, I probably should have called for cover. I didn't.
You're getting a drink. Like, ooh, cherry Coke.
He comes out, and then he wants to leave. And I'm like, nah, man. Like, I got to get your information real quick. You're just going to get criminal trespass. That's it. No big deal. It's like, nah, they want me to leave. I'm leaving, And I'm like, nah. And I go ahead and grab his arm. Like, you ain't leaving, all right? And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he just sucker punched me. Punches
Holy
me in the
shit.
face. I had contacts at the time. So I remember one of my contacts falling off. And I remember for a split second, I was like, did this motherfucker just hit me? Like, because at the time, I'm Big Billy Badass. I'm the police.
You're supposed to submit to my
yeah,
authority.
yeah.
Don't you see? I'm wearing blue.
Right. And
let me ask you: is that the first time you've ever been hit in your life?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
But it's the first time
the
on
job.
duty. That fucks with you. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's a mind fuck.
I've had guys, maybe try to resist, go away, run.
Right,
whatever.
right.
But this was almost personal, right? And it isn't. It isn't.
It's not. But
it's business, right?
But to get hit in the face intentionally, that's that. Yeah.
And I, for that split second, I remember like this motherfucker just hit me. I guess it's on, right? So I go to try to tackle him. That doesn't go really well.
Are you in the gas station still?
No, we're in a restaurant.
Oh no, you're in.
Luckily, it's not very busy. So, but yes, so it's not very busy. Thank
knocking
God.
over the maple syrup and shit.
Yeah. So here I go to try to tackle this guy, and I remember at the time there began being hesitation in my brain. I was like, could I have even? Because I didn't know what I was doing. Right? Could I have even put hands on him for criminal trespass?
Right.
So here I am doubting myself,
Right.
And that doubt is making me not use enough force to handle business.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You're now pulling back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And which obviously he starts getting a hold of me. He ends up putting me like in a not a chokehold, but essentially my head is in between his armpit, I guess, and he's got me
It's like
wrapped
he's
around.
giving you a noogie. It's like he's yeah.
Right. So at this point I had already asked for cover. I didn't give my element number. Nobody recognizes my voice because I'm new. So they're doing a roll call.
Oh my god.
But I don't my radio had fallen off and it was
Right.
just dangling. So I couldn't understand that there was a roll call. I'm just thinking, there'll be cover here in a second. There wasn't. So I'm fighting this guy and I decided, well, I can't get off of this like hold that he's got me. So I'm gonna, I got my taser, I shot him in the leg, and then I connected it by his hip.
Smart. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
I knew it was too short to be this,
Yeah. No.
So he lets go.
But you got one in him, and then
yes.
Good. Smart.
So that happens, and he lets go, and then at that point I didn't have time to reload the taser. I'm like, all right, this is done, and I threw it out the side, and then yes, it gets better, dude. It gets better. So then I go to try to tackle him again, and now I got him pinned down towards the corner of one of the walls, right? I got a little bit more control of him. And now we're just like, I'm kicking him, he's punching me, I'm punching him.
Holy,
we're just kind of,
this is a full-on fight.
Yes, we're just kind of trading blows. I don't think he's going super 100%, and I'm not going super 100%, right? Because I'm still hesitating. I'm like, man.
Oh man.
And then I could see the lady, one of the restaurant ladies, come up next to me, and she grabs my taser. You need this?
Do you need this, sir?
as I'm fighting with this dude. And I go, no, ma'am, like, stand back. I don't want you to get hurt, kind of thing.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm getting more control over him, right? I pinned him to the, and that's when I realized on my radio, as my vision started opening up, like, they're doing a roll call. And I'm like, shit. So here I am, pinning this guy against the wall, trying to, like, reach over my radio, because it's dangling by my feet.
You're like, Charlie 999999, like, God damn it. Like,
Yeah. So I finally give up my element number. At this point, it gets a little serious. He tries to go for my gun. So I go, don't go for my gun. And he says, I'm just holding the gun, sir. I was like, don't go for my gun. And I remember, like, okay.
When you're fighting a crazy person like that and they say some weird, crazy thing like that, that's scarier to me than violence.
See,
that's scarier to me when they're like,
crazy people,
the God's coming for you. I'm like, oh, shit. I got to beat this motherfucker.
yeah, like, I'm about to.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, should I grab my knife and stab him? All right. But remember that hesitation in me, like, should I even put hands on? Am I going to stab this guy? when I couldn't even
Right.
put hand, so I had a lot of hesitation in my mind. I was like, well, I could headbutt him because I have his face. Because he's a little taller than me, maybe like 3-4 inches. So, but then I hear the sirens on the background.
Oh.
There was somebody who was nearby, and as soon as they heard my element number, they're like, oh, he's right there.
Right.
And they ended up tackling him to the ground, and we put him in custody. But that taught me 3 things. It was a humbling experience, right? Number 1. Number 2, you better learn you better learn to know what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
So that when you have to do hands-on, like there's no hesitation, right?
Exactly.
And then it taught me that this uniform doesn't really mean shit, right? And that was the foundation to me becoming a better cop in the future by knowing how to talk to you talk to Tango Blast homeboy Little Johnny a certain way versus Rick from or whatever.
Right.
You and the uniform doesn't mean anything. It's there. It makes some people submit, but it gets to a point where if you need to like impose some force in somebody, like the uniform may not be enough, and you got to be able to back up that force that you need to do on your own.
It's who's wearing the uniform.
Right. So luckily I learned that early in my career, but yeah, that was a very dumb story. And I eventually got my taser back too.
She didn't take it home.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and taking time out. We'll definitely have you back. Unless this episode is rated poorly, then we're never having you back.
Yeah, I agree. It's okay. I understand.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace.
Thanks so much for listening, subscribing, and sharing. Please rate and review the show on your favorite platforms. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Our website is nfipodcast.com, YouTube at NFI Podcast, and please reach out to us at podcast@nfipodcast.com. Let me know what you think. New episodes released weekly or whenever I feel like it. Help us spread the word and tell us what you think. Share it with a friend. Stay safe and remember, do your job.